Let me tell you something that might annoy you. The people who post the least on social media are usually the most secure in real life. Yeah, the quiet ones. And before you say, or maybe they're just boring, stay with me. Because by the end of this, you might look at that silent person very differently. Think about it. When someone suddenly stops posting, what do you assume? They're struggling. They fell off. Something went wrong. We rarely think, maybe they just don't need the attention anymore. Why is that? Why do we automatically associate silence with failure? That question alone says a lot about how we see validation, and maybe how much we depend on it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't post because they want to share. They post because they want to be seen. There's a difference. One is expression, the other is reassurance. And reassurance is addictive. Every notification becomes a tiny hit of dopamine. Every like whispers, "You matter." Now imagine not needing that whisper. That's rare. Now imagine waking up and not caring whether anyone noticed you yesterday. No urge to check who viewed your story. No subtle anxiety about whether your post performed well. Just silence. Most people don't realize how loud their mind is until the notifications stop. Because when the outside noise fades, you're left alone with yourself, and that's where it gets interesting. Some people avoid posting less because they're scared of that silence, not the social silence, the internal one. Here's something nobody talks about. When you post something, you're not just sharing a moment. You're placing your self-image on trial, and then you wait for a verdict. How many likes? Who commented? Did that person see it? And even if you pretend you don't care, your brain does. It registers approval. It registers rejection. Tiny micro-rejections like low engagement slowly chip at self-worth. Now imagine someone who doesn't enter that courtroom at all. They don't put themselves on trial every week. They don't wait for a digital jury. That's not weakness. That's emotional independence. And emotional independence is rare. But here's the twist. The people who don't post much aren't always antisocial. They're selective. Selective with energy, selective with exposure, selective with who gets access. And access is power. If everyone can see your life 24/7, there's no mystery left, no depth left, no privacy left. But when someone moves quietly, you can't fully read them. And humans are naturally curious about what they can't read. That's why silence feels powerful. Think about this. There's the person who announces every new goal. Gym transformation loading. Big project coming soon. Watch this space. And then there's the one who disappears for 6 months. No noise. Then suddenly, you see the result. Body changed. Business launched. Life upgraded. No hype, just outcome. Which one feels stronger? Be honest. You can't fully read them. And humans are naturally curious about what they can't read. That's why. Silence feels powerful. When you stop performing your life, your energy changes. You're not calculating angles anymore, not curating emotions, not editing reality. You just experience things fully. You laugh without thinking, this would be a good story. You achieve something, and instead of posting it immediately, you sit with it. You let it sink in. That builds internal stability, and stability is attractive. Not flashy attractive, grounded attractive. Here's something nobody says out loud. When you stop needing attention, you become intimidating because you can't be manipulated by likes. You can't be pressured by comparison. You can't be shaken by being ignored. Silence no longer threatens you. You're steady, and steady people are hard to control. When attention is no longer your currency, you become emotionally independent. And emotional independence is one of the rarest forms of power today. In a world addicted to visibility, being comfortable without it is rare. You don't need constant updates to be valuable. You don't need an audience to be successful. And you don't need noise to be powerful. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the quiet one, the one building, the one observing, the one not performing, the one not explaining. Because rare is powerful, and in the digital age, nothing is rarer than someone who doesn't need attention to feel enough. Pause. Let that breathe, and ask yourself, if nobody was watching, would you still live the same way? That's the real psychology.